Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the focus group. I guess that's what I'm going to call this. I have no idea. I'm Seth. Glad to be here with you. Hopefully you'll watch this. If you are watching, go in the comments and just tell me where you're watching from. Tell me something that you want to know about email. This month, we're going to be focusing on email delivery today specifically, but just email marketing, email newsletters for churches in general this month. So I'm really excited about this. I'm certified by HubSpot in email marketing. Just wanted to say that up front. So I've done a little research on this. I'm going to go redo it again here soon because I know things are changing all the time. So I'll be doing that again soon, along with some social media certifications, things. And if you ever want to learn how professional marketers do stuff, go to HubSpot, HUBSPOT.com. They have a learning center. They will certify you. They have courses. They're all free. You can go and learn all of this from pros way better at this than me. So feel free to go to that, HubSpot.com, and go to their learning center, their certification labs. But I'm going to give you some of the stuff that I've learned from them. And I've shared it in a blog or two before, but I want to go through some of these highlights here because email is something that we all do. Everybody at every church handles email. Now, we often think of email as something that people don't want. That's not true. I will say bad email is what people don't want. So it's important to think about your formatting and what you're saying and what you're offering in the email. And we'll get to that in some other sessions that we're going to do in the next few weeks. But today, it really doesn't matter what's in the email if the email doesn't even land in the inbox. And that in itself is a problem that we have to work to fix because a lot of us are using mass email lists or clients like MailChimp, etc. And we need to know some of these rules so that we are not violating them so that we don't get banned and flagged as spam. Something important to remember, 22% open rate for your emails for your church newsletter is really good. It's pretty normal. If you get higher than that, it's spectacular. If you get lower than that, you need to look into some of this stuff because that's a big issue. If they can't open it if it doesn't even land in their inbox, right? So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. And if you think about last stat I heard on email was that if you take all the social media handles, usernames, and combine them, it will not be as many email addresses as there are in the world. And you think about it, and you have to have an email address to even have social media. Email address is like your API key for the internet. You have to have one. Everybody has one. Everybody checks them to some degree or another. And when you post something to your Facebook page, less than 1% are in that first sampling that Facebook will show your content to the people. And so you compare that to the 22% that you might get on email versus 1% on Facebook. You might get 3 to 5, maybe 8 on Instagram if you're doing really well and you have a low, small crowd. It's not even close. It's your information. Email is still king. Now, text messaging, you want to talk about that? That's like 90% open rate. So it's a whole different game with text messaging. So we'll do that sometime soon. And I'll try to get Tyler Smith to come in here from Text in Church and talk about it. So I'm sure he'd love to do that. But I think he's in the group. So hey, what's up, Tyler? If you see this, they're doing an Engage conference today. I'll drop that link in the show notes. So if you're not doing Engage this afternoon, that's a free conference that is going to be fan-freaking-tastic. So I'll put my affiliate link in there. It's an affiliate. Help a brother out. Sign up if you haven't. If you sign up for the free, I get nothing. If you sign up for the on-demand watch later, I get money. So that would be really cool because I don't have a lot of that coming in these days, So I'm kidding, I do. But it would be really cool to help brother out. So I'll put that link in there. Or go with somebody else. There's a lot of other people. It's fine. Anyway, let's get to the email deliverability. When you want to talk about this, it's a big issue. It's something we have to discuss. I'm going to give you 9 reasons that it might land in the spam folder. These are 9 basic functions of email that you might need to pay attention to. So here's the first one. First one is the biggest offense that churches commit, and it is this: you don't have permission to email them. Now, in Europe, they passed something called GDPR. I forget what that stands for, but basically it puts the burden for opting in on the person and not the burden of opting out. So in America, you can just say, hey, do you want this free PDF? That's how a lot of you got on my list. I give you the 88 Ideas PDF. You go online, you sign up, you give me your email address, you get on my list, and I send you through the list the PDF. And now I'm sending you emails every week, right? That's basic inbound marketing. That is one of the only ways people really sign up for stuff, is if you give them something. And besides, I'd written that thing and I was like, let's just give this thing away. It's really helpful. And so that's what we can do in America. Now, on my list, I'm trying to add this extra checkbox where you have to acknowledge that that's okay. And that's the difference. Many churches, and I've been a part of these kinds of churches, we've done this, and that's not my favorite. It's because it's not great for deliverability or ethics, but they give you the little card, the little Connect card. They give you their email address, but never do you ask if it's okay to email them. And then you just throw their name on your general email list, and they start getting updates from your church. And that's not a good practice. That actually is not okay. So how does that affect deliverability? It does and it doesn't technically affect it. But, if they could unsubscribe, and you'll find later unsubscribing a lot is not good for deliverability. So we need to think about this in a holistic sense too. Now let's get into the technical stuff. Number 2, somebody else used the server that your email client is using to spam. Let's say you are on a server with another company that just is sleazy, and they spam the heck out of people, and they use all kinds of negative practices to reach people that never signed up for their list, and they get flagged and they get hit. That server could get flagged by Gmail, by Yahoo, by Microsoft, by whatever client your people use, and because they talk, right? And so they're going to find out that server and things coming from that server have been compromised. And if your email is going through that server, then your email will experience a drastically lower open rate because it's not being delivered as much, because you've been labeled kind of guilty by association as spam. And so that's something you can't really do much about. And that's why it's important to pick reputable third-party clients that are like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, because they pay attention to that and they clean their servers and they make sure they're not part of that. So if you're just using an off-brand or something new, that might be an issue, and so you got to be careful with that. So that's why it's important to just make sure that you're using reputable third-party apps and clients to send email. And I wouldn't call Gmail one of those third party, because that's your actual email. So I would not use that. I would use something else. And I'll probably get into that later in the month on why that is. All right. So I already hit on this, but the third is low open rates. So if you have low open rates on your list, that means that people getting this email from this IP address that is sending to them, this client, this email address it's coming from, whatever it is that they're reading, they're going to notice that nobody's opening this. Nobody wants this. So let's not deliver this. Let's put it in promotions folder because people aren't opening it. And it's just another guilty by association. But here's the deal. Terminator's a real thing that could happen to us because the machines are learning about your behavior. The Instagram algorithm, there was a later blog that came out today. I'm going to share it later this week. Or you can go to it now if you want to, but it was about how the algorithm is constantly learning and using machine learning to better predict what you want to see. And email works very much the same way on some of these servers. So they're trying to figure out, okay, if nobody's opening your email, then we're not going to send it to people because obviously nobody wants to hear from you. And that's something you have to pay attention to. So if you don't have an email client that shows you open rates for you to monitor, that's why that's super important, because you could be throwing emails out there and everybody's like, I didn't know that was coming. I didn't know. And you're like, I sent you an email. Why don't you read it? And they're like, because we never got it. And you're all mad because at the end of the day, they never really got the email because Gmail thinks you're not good at email and they decided not to show your email to anyone. And they deliver it to the promotions folder, or they put it in a spam filter, or they went straight to trash. And that hurts everything that you're trying to do. So low open rates is a flag that something else is going on you need to pay attention to. All right, number 4-ish. I think I'm going to lose count of these because I don't have them numbered on my list here that I'm looking at. Here's a big issue that people in church world kind of are starting to get, I think. What gets people to open your email once it does land in the inbox? Anyone? Anyone? Class? Anyone? The subject line. The subject line is the biggest factor in getting people to open your email. And if your subject line is good, they'll open it. If it is bad or uninteresting, they won't open it. If it's the same subject line they've seen a million times, they won't open it. But here's the problem with deliverability. If your subject line is deceptive, you will get flagged, and they know when it's deceptive. Things like, hey, your dad told me to call. Your dad needs your help with something, or your credit's in jeopardy, or final notice. Those are gross kind of practices. Things that are in the subject line that have nothing to do content-wise with what's in the email. Yeah, you don't think people are reading your email? Maybe people aren't, but robots are, and they can tell when these things don't go together. It's freaky, but they can. And so if your subject line is deceptive, they are not going to allow it to go through. So you have to be truthful about you can get clever with your subject lines, but don't get so clever that it's just clickbait. They recognize clickbait. And there's phrases and stuff, and you can look this stuff up. There's phrases like free, or phrases like need your attention. Things that are trying to get attention, obviously, are typical spammy phrases that they will recognize and say, this is deceptive. And so that could flag you as spam. All right, number 5, this is a huge one, because I know we all want our email newsletters, and I even tried something a little bit this week, and my open rates plummeted, I think, because of it. So I'm going to do some A/B tests and things next week and see if that was the cause, or if it's just that I'm on a new mail client and I need to get whitelisted again. But, it's too many images. If you here's the thing, most email clients, and I'll tell you, Outlook, Gmail, I think Yahoo, all of their default modes are to have images turned off. Now, when you receive an email from someone early on when you had your account and had images in it, they probably said, hey, this has images, could be dangerous. Do you want to turn images on? And you can say yes. And then from then you haven't even noticed it, which is what a lot of people do. But the default, especially when you first email someone, I think it's still on, maybe for each user. I can't remember if that's true. Check me on that. If for each user you have to have it turned on, or for each person you get from, I don't know. I think there's a global setting you can set. I have mine just turned on, because why wouldn't I want the images, right? It's like, I'm not getting email from people I don't usually want. And if I am, I quickly unsubscribe. So if you have too many images, not only is it just not functional, it doesn't really succeed well because of that turned off images default mode, it really increases the size of your email. And I think 24 megabytes is typically the limit of email that most clients will allow you to send at a time. That's not a lot. And so if you beef it up with images, it takes up a lot of that space. And if your email gets too big, that signals the robots that could be a virus, that could be porn, that could be something that is dangerous for you to open. And so they're going to flag that as don't send this to them. Don't let it go through. If you have you may just have like 15 images from the fall festival, and that's all you wanted to show. But if they're full size, full res images you're trying to send an email, it's probably not going to let you send more than 1 or 2 anyway. But man, if you try to send a bunch of those, it's going to flag you, and you're going to have trouble with deliverability. I recommend that you use links to another if you got one picture or something you want to use it as a link to, and I would never use a picture as the link. Put a button or a text link or something, because if they have it turned off, they won't know what to link, right? If they can't see the picture. So I would use multiple ways to connect like that to your images. Somebody else asking this in the Church Communications Facebook group today about video. They want to be able to play the video in email. They don't want it to show the preview with a button you click that takes you out of the email to go play it. Yes, you do. That's exactly what you want. You do not want to put a ginormous video in your email. Not only will it not send, but if it does play in the email, gosh, can you imagine how slow that would be? It would be a terrible experience. And so don't put your videos in there either. Host them on Vimeo and link to it. And most email providers now I know MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, they have little modules you can drop in for video that look really good that people know. They're going to click it. It's going to take them out. It's going to show the video. That's just a better experience. And that's why email providers do that on default, and they don't give you options to load a full-on video into email because they know that's a bad practice for deliverability, and they're trying to protect you from it. So don't try to do that. Too many images, videos, files, all that stuff could really just kill it. So don't put too much in your emails. Use it to communicate, not send stuff. Use Dropbox or G Suite, Drive or something like that for that. All right, let's move on. Number, whatever it is now. Your reply address, and from name don't match. Again, robots are reading your email. So if this looks like it is your name, but the email is office@yourchurch.com, and the reply address is admin@church.com. They go, that's a practice typically called phishing, phishing. And what that means is that it's when sleazy marketers are trying to mask the return so you can't find out who sent you this email. And they send you an email and they pretend to be a person. So you'll open it. It's from an email, like it's automated, so it's not really even a person sending it, but they want you to think it is. It's all kinds of like deception. And so when you're filling out your information, you need to make sure like your email, if it's coming from your pastor, John Smith, then the email address that it responds to needs to be John Smith at your church. Or if you, and I know a lot of people don't want that. We don't want our pastor's email out there. Well, you can accept some of this, like make the return email address office, and it's just from office. And then I would say John Smith at the office of your church, and use that as the from name. Because if it needs to have something in that name that reflects those email addresses, you know what I'm saying? So that you don't get flagged as spam, or it lands or you have problems delivering this email. Because, you just got to get creative of how to get around that, because companies set up fake email address, and churches don't typically do this. You could set up an email address like John Smith at your church, but his real email address that he monitors is J Smith at your church, and nobody would know that. You could do things like that allow you to have this filled out correctly and look right, that people can respond to, that somebody else monitors, that then your pastor has their actual email address. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about that and how to creatively solve that problem, because if they don't match, that's phishing, and they can flag you for it. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about bounces. If you have a lot of bounces from your email, it could be a real issue. And many of us don't really understand bounces and what they are. There's a couple different kinds, and the two that we really need to focus on are the soft bounce and the hard bounce. And what that means is your email basically bounces back. They send it and something happens and tells the email client, we don't want it. And that's not normal, right? Normally they want your email. So why did this come back? A soft bounce and a hard bounce are different. Like soft bounces, you don't want a bunch of those, but those are not as bad as the hard bounce. The hard bounce starts happening a lot. You can really get in trouble because that's a sleazy kind of practice. It notifies people of a sleazy practice. I'll explain in a second. Let's talk about a soft bounce. A soft bounce is when you send an email to someone that has like an out of office reply on autoresponder, or the mailbox is full, but their email address actually exists. Like that's a person that just isn't there, and they're not receiving email for some reason. There was a problem, right? So the email comes back and goes, hey, there was a little problem delivering this one, and it was on their end. So that's really not your problem. So that's why the soft bounce is okay. It's because over there, they've just got a bad deal. A hard bounce is worse because that's when you send an email to somebody that doesn't exist. And you've got either you have the email entered wrong and it comes back because the inbox doesn't exist, or they give you a fake one, or you're just making stuff up. And this is the problem. Sleazy marketers will make up, with their boss, the devil. They'll get with our boss and go, hey, boss, devil man, will you help us create some email addresses we think exist? So they will go out and they will find a list of people and use different combinations of your name with Gmail, different combinations of your name with Yahoo, different combinations of your name with Hotmail, or Outlook or your church that you're employed at, and they'll find you, and like a church staff page, often a target of this kind of thing. They go, oh, this is how their emails are formatted if they see them, and they will go in and just grab those emails and try to create, or they'll see like one email is that way, then let's figure out all these other ones, and they'll try to get spamming you, and a lot of times that works. And so you have to they'll find you, and once they find you, they zero in, they start really spamming your inbox. And so a hard bounce is a sleazy practice, and though if you get a couple of those, like one or two, I think I know MailChimp will be like, hey man, something's wrong, what's up, like, what are you doing? They don't want to be the person that sent emails for a sleazeball. And if you're the sleazeball, they don't want to work with you. They will shut you down. So you need to watch those hard bounces. Again, that's why it's important to make sure you're using a third-party mail company like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, whatever you want to use, that shows you not only open rates, click rates, but bounce rates and what kind of bounces you're getting. That's what that means. So if you've got soft bounces, you're like, okay, find out what those are, go through there, correct those emails, find out if that's a real inbox, if somebody's not paying attention there anymore, whatever's going on. But if you get some hard bounces, take them off your list. Just take them off. Just don't even worry about it. Just take them off, and don't let that be a problem. Don't email them anymore. Unless you can contact that person and say, hey, do I have this correct? Whatever, and do that. So basically don't work for the devil on that. That would be really, really cool. All right, two more. These are really big ones that I probably should put at the front of the video where most people are going to watch before they fade out here at the end. But these are really important, and they have to do with your footer. In the footer of your email, if you are sending as an organization to a mass list, then there are two requirements that you have to have them, because it's against the law if you don't. There was a law passed called the Can Spam Law. It is, you can look it up. It's basically to protect people from some of these sleazy marketing practices we've been talking about. And one of them is that with your company or your church, in the footer, you are required to provide, I'll give you these two at the same time, a physical address where your business is located and an unsubscribe link to get out of the email. You have to provide a way to opt out. You got to include the physical address because it proves that you're a real place. So with a church, that's easy. You just put in your address, no problem. They have to find you. If you're a business, sometimes you, especially like me, I work out of my house, so I don't want people knowing where my house is. So I have a P.O. box that I can put in there, and that suffices, right? You have to have an actual mailing address of some sort. But I think that might be going away soon. I may have to have an actual physical address, which I just learned that UPS does basically the same thing as a P.O. box, and that they give you their physical address, and then you add the box number as your address. So it's like a P.O. box, but instead of saying P.O. box, they give you their store address and then your box number. So I'll be switching to that once my P.O. box thing runs out. So probably just a good idea. But with churches, have an address, no problem. The unsubscribe link, if your third-party app provider is reputable, they'll just put that in there for you, or they'll provide a way for you to put it in there. And I like to have the unsubscribe and the update profile. So if you have multiple lists or whatever, they can go in and say, I want to get emails just about these things. That's really good if you can segment your list. But if your list is just one list, you're doing a newsletter, all you need is the unsubscribe. That's the bare minimum. You have to have that. It's really, really important that you allow them the opportunity. Again, we talked about GDPR at the beginning. I think it's going to become where, that's probably always going to be required, but not as necessary, not as functional in the future, because most people, have already said, yes, you can email me, but there's always going to be a place where they get tired of getting emails. I mean, I've been on lists for a while, and I was reading The Hustle for a long time. I really liked The Hustle. It was an email list, and it was about tech news, and it was really great. And then they changed out writers, and I just got bored with it. And so I was like, I'm out. So unsubscribe. You got to have that. And I know that you think that what you're putting out as a church is the most important thing on the planet. It's not. Jesus is, but your event is not. And so if they don't want to hear from you, you need to take that as a constructive criticism, that if you're having a lot a lot of unsubscribes, which is something a good email client will show you what your rate of unsubscribe is. If your unsubscribe rate is really high, and I'd say if it's more than you're getting every week, like if you're having more unsubscribes than you're having subscribers every week, you need to really seriously think about what kind of email you're doing and how you're doing it, because that is a severe indicator that you're not being successful. Anyway, so that's the 9 things I would say to affect deliverability for your email. I know some of you are going to watch this later. I didn't have any comments or questions or reactions, but if you get to this point, throw them in the comment section here. I would love to talk with you more about it. So I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and thank you guys for watching. This is a blog. I'll put in the link to this as well, in case you want to go check that out and see the written version of this, where I blogged about it at sethmuse.com. And so it's a little snappier, shorter version. Probably read it in about 5 minutes. But go through your email practices. Make sure you're doing these things right, because if you're not, it could affect deliverability. Will affect deliverability. And if people aren't receiving your emails, people aren't opening your emails. And if they're not opening your emails, they're not reading them. And if they're not reading them, then they don't know what's happening. And email is the best way to communicate information to your people regularly. You just can't be annoying with it. So don't do these annoying things. And we'll be talking about formatting, best practices, how to get good content, all that kind of stuff in the next few weeks. So join the Facebook group at Seminary of Hard Knocks Facebook group. And, if obviously you guys who are watching this here in the group are here, but for YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, come join the Facebook group, and we'll do some more on church communications and email this week. All right. Or this month. Thanks guys for watching. We'll see you.